Hello, everybody, and welcome back to LRN, our first show of 2023. And I'm excited to get going again this year. Been away a bit longer than planned through the festive period, but we are back. So I hope all of you had a fantastic new year. But what I'm asking today is for you, the F1 fans, to let me know: do you want to see Andretti Cadillac join the F1 grid? Because it's becoming increasingly clear that the F1 team bosses do not want to see Cadillac join the F1 grid. Andretti's F1 bid to pay off. They are pretty much throwing up every obstacle or excuse that they can. The FIA has been probably too vocal in their wanting or sort of backing of Andretti F1 joining the F1 grid as the 11th team, but the F1 and F1 team bosses are pushing back. So we're going to go through the reasons why and how basically the F1 teams have demanded a $500 million payoff from Andretti to allow them to join F1. And is that basically just a way of going, they'll never pay that, let's just save $500 million because that'll put him off? We'll find out, but we'll go through that in more detail. If you are new around here, though, please make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit a like on the video, and let me know in the comments what you think about Andretti F1 and if you want to see them join the F1 grid. So that number then, $500 million, where has it come from? Well, essentially the current arrangement is $200 million for basically to be paid from any new F1 entrant to be spread around all of the other teams currently in F1 as basically a payoff for the fact that any new team coming into F1 is going to eat into the prize pot that the F1 teams get. So it's going to eat into their profits. So they've basically got to pay a fee to make up for the money those teams are going to lose for X amount of time. And that was previously calculated at $200 million. Now, that basically the F1 teams have said that number is now redundant. That number should now be closer to $500 million. And their reasoning for that is that the growth in the American market is so much, and the increase in therefore income for all of the teams and for F1 has grown so exponentially and is therefore far more valuable, and it would equate therefore closer to $500 million required as a payout to basically make up for the money that those teams are going to lose because of an additional team coming into the world of F1. To me, I think that's a bit much. As I say, it's all about greed. It's all about, how much money can we make? And of course, these are businesses. These teams want to make as much money as possible, but the sport should come first. And I'd argue that more teams, as long as they are going to be competitive, as long as they're going to be run in the right way, they should be joining the world of F1. I mean, if you've got someone that's willing to come in and pay $500 million just to be allowed to join the grid, and that's not including, of course, the money that they need to spend to actually develop the car and become competitive in F1. To me, they're not coming in just to sit at the back. I think Andretti himself is a very competitive person. GM is, of course, one of the biggest names in the automotive industry. Cadillac would just be the badging. It is, of course, GM that would be backing the bid. Andretti had been the excuse to previously reject Andretti is that he didn't have the backing of a major manufacturer. GM is a major manufacturer. Yes, they don't have a huge history in the world of F1, but they are massive in the world of the automotive industry. So certainly they're one of the top 5 in the world, formerly number 1 of the largest automotive manufacturer in the world. So massive brand, yet to be seen what they would bring to F1, but should they be given the opportunity? In my opinion, absolutely. But the teams are putting up these blockers, a $500 million blocker to try and prevent them coming in. And as I say, it's essentially the teams are already there saying, we like things how they are, we like the money that we're currently getting, we do not want to lose the money we're currently getting. So if you want entry to this club that we are in, what we would like to be a 10 max club, despite the fact that F1 maxes out at 12 teams. There is a 12 team limit, so we are 2 off that. But the 10 teams are clearly, well, not all of them, but 8 of the 10 teams, it seems like, are adamant they would want a big payoff to make up for potential monetary losses should another team join the grid. The exceptions to that are McLaren and Alpine. McLaren Basically, Zach Brown is friends with Andretti, so he's basically immediately gone, yeah, I'm happy for him to join. We're happy for him to come in. Let him pay the $200 million. That's it. And also Alpine, not sure 100% on the relationship, but Alpine have basically said they're happy for Andretti F1 and with the GM backing to come into the world of F1 as well. So they are on board, but you've got 8 other teams there. Maybe not all of them, but certainly the big hitters. I think Toto Wolff and Geunther Steiner at Haas have been the main sort of opponents to this from a vocal standpoint. But I think generally speaking, people in F1, the team bosses and Stefano Domenicali, F1 themselves, are reluctant to do this. And I think from Stefano's point of view and F1's point of view, they're just getting angry at the FIA. Because again, the head of the FIA has come out, the president, and he's come out with some quotes and basically said the FIA has accepted the entries of smaller, successful organisations in recent years, such as Haas. We should be encouraging prospective F1 entries from global manufacturers like GM and thoroughbred racers like Andretti and others. Interest from teams in growth markets as diversity and broadens F1's appeal. The pushback on that from the F1 teams is due to Drive to Survive and additional races in America. We already have a huge, fan base and a massive growth in the F1 market in America. So do we even need another American team to continue to grow that market? Again, an excuse not to have the Andretti F1 join the grid. But is it actually a good reason? No, not if Andretti's going to come in and actually perform well and has ambition, is going to maybe add to that midfield battle. They probably wouldn't come in and be fighting near the front. They would be a team running a Renault engine if they were to join. And of course, I think like Haas would take some time to get up to speed. I don't expect them to be fighting anywhere near the front, unlike Audi, who I think are going to come in and really have that ambition to go and fight with the big guns at the front of the grid. I think more so Andretti F1 would be coming in with the aim of not being cut adrift at the back and maybe forming part of what, I think the midfield battle eventually could end up just being you'll have the front 3 or 4 and then everyone below them fighting as well. And I think that's good. That's good for us F1 fans to have a massive battle through the grid with different teams finishing in different positions from sort of 7th down to 20th in every single race. That to me sounds positive, and I do think Andretti could form part of that and obviously go up to 22 cars on the grid. So for me, it's a good thing. If they can bring something to the sport, if they can really be competitive, if they can just form a really strong part of F1's future in the midfield, I want them there. I want the F1 bosses to stop getting in the way. Yes, I think there's a principle of F1 just wanting to disagree with the FIA. The FIA have been vocally supportive, and they probably shouldn't be because they're meant to be neutral. And it is the F1 teams and F1 themselves who get to choose and vote on whether a new team can join. But the fact that the FIA are coming out and being so vocally supportive of Andretti F1 joining, I think out of spite, essentially, the F1 are like, actually, we just want to disagree with the FIA at the moment. We're not really getting on with them. So because they're backing it, we're going to make this difficult. And again, it's greed as well. They don't want to lose their money. They want a guaranteed increase in the entry fee to make up for potentially any lost prize pot. And yes, I can understand that from a fundamental point of view, but does that add up to $500 million in pure growth from the 200 million that was agreed previously? Probably not. I'm not sure that it does. But maybe Andretti will be willing to pay that. Maybe GM are willing to pay that to get into the world of F1, to bring the Cadillac badge to the world of F1. I'm not sure Cadillac really holds the weight of other brands. They've even used, when they're pushing back on Andretti, they're kind of using the fact that they've been open to Audi and they're open to Porsche joining F1 as like we are allowing other teams to join. It's nothing to do with not wanting another team. But, Andretti in particular, for some reason, that they're against. And that don't listen to that. Don't acknowledge it, because Audi aren't actually adding another team to the grid. They're taking over Sauber and they're buying up Sauber Group. So That isn't actually changing anything in terms of the volume of teams on the grid. And Porsche's entry was going to be more of an investment and a sponsorship and putting their brand on another team. Again, not adding a new team to the grid. So Andretti F1 is a completely different prospect. They are a brand new team coming into F1. It's increasing the size of the F1 grid, and as I say, if it increases it in a competitive way, I agree with the F1 bosses that we don't want to see a Minardi team come in, just be there for the sake of being there, essentially be, you know, a B-level F1 team that is always at the back, struggling to make that 120% speed, and, you know, realistically don't form part of the F1 grid because they're kind of running their own race every week. I don't want to see that, but I do want to see, if it ends up being, obviously, you know, maximum 12 teams, if it means 12 teams on the grid and they're all competitive, they're all fighting, they're all challenging each other for position. Yes, it will cost some teams some prize money if they finish behind these new teams, but frankly, that's their problem, to use their expertise, use their knowledge in the world of F1 that they've gathered by being there for a long amount, you know, a huge amount of time in most cases, to beat these new teams coming into the sport. Use that expertise to actually finish ahead of them, to ensure their prize pot. And yes, it'll be a little bit diluted, but, you know, so what? If it improves the sport, it improves the viewership, it improves the value of the sport on a global basis. That money that they're going to get, the exposure they're going to get, is going to increase anyway. So yes, bringing a team in could black and white reduce the amount of money that they get, but at the same time it could increase it, because Andretti F1, yes, we have exploded in America as part of Drive to Survive and those additional races, but that doesn't mean there isn't more growth to come. And having a brand as big as GM and Cadillac, which is huge in America, come into the sport will absolutely increase the exposure within and the interest of F1 in America even further. And it's a massive, massive market that's only begun to be tapped. So I think it's really short-sighted of F1 bosses to potentially turn down Andretti coming into Formula One, when actually, yeah, okay, make him pay an additional fee. I don't think they'd worry about it that much. They maybe negotiate the 500 million down closer to the 200, but I do think they'll pay it. And I think that the other F1 teams may be surprised to the benefits that come from Andretti coming into the world of F1. But for me as a fan, as someone that's only going to really experience it from the perspective of watching the sport week in, week out, yes, I want to see more teams join the grid if they're competitive, if they add something to the sport, and as long as they're not happy to sit at the back of the grid. And I tell you now, Andretti is not someone who is, you know, going to be happy to just be a back marker. He's a proven racer. He is competitive to his core. He would not be doing this if he didn't think he could add something to F1, if he couldn't be competitive with a team that under his own name. You know, he puts his name to it. He doesn't want to damage the brand Andretti by having this rubbish F1 team that just laps around as a backmarker all the time. He wants to be at the front, and I think there's a lot to be said for that. Let him join the sport. Make it on a set amount of time. Teams came and went out of the world of F1 all the time for years. Give them their opportunity in the sport. Let them prove they're competitive, and bring GM, bring that huge juggernaut in the world of automotive, in the world to the sport, and it will grow the world of F1. It will bring more eyes, it will bring more interest, and I think it will benefit those other teams as well, even if in the short term it dilutes the prize pot between the 11 teams in F1. But please let me know what you think. Do you want to see them join the grid? Do you think it would be benefit long term? Do you think that the F1 teams are right to demand such a huge payout for an additional team to join the F1 grid? What do you think on this latest story? What would you like to see happen? Let me know in the comments below. Make sure to hit a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you are new or have not done so to date. Otherwise, just going to thank you so much for watching. We'll be out again throughout the season reacting to all of the latest news that comes out from the world of F1. So again, make sure you're subscribed on the bottom right hand side for all of the latest content. Otherwise, just going to thank you so much for watching. Hope you have a great day. Goodbye.